runs 3 businesses, and he has not only been an amazing business mind, has not only introduced me to so many awesome people, but he has developed a 7th level business that has been so genuine to help other people and me personally on so many ways that you guys have no idea, that have helped make this mastermind possible, that have made so many good decisions possible. It's my absolute honor to introduce Jay Kinder.
It's been a fun ride. That's all I can say. It's a pleasure to be up here. So I'm going to share some things. Really, I don't think I've ever really in totality shared some of the things I'm going to share with you guys here today. Lessons learned. I would call this maybe the bumps and bruises and scars from trying to step out of my business over the years, right? So, and it's funny because as I talk to many of you who I talk to a lot, and some of you whom I've just met, we all have similar stories, right? Like where we made the mistake. It doesn't seem like any of us in the room have done it all like perfectly and not just smack into the wall at some point and had to learn some serious lessons along the way. So I don't feel as bad. I thought I was the only one that just screwed it up, and that's how I learned. And so that's cool. I feel comfortable sharing some of the mistakes and challenges that I've had in stepping away from the business. So, and it may not be everybody's goal here in the room to step away from the business. That may not be what you're trying to do. But what I want you to take away from this is you got to look at your business as if you were going to sell your business. If you're not going to sell your business, that's fine. But you should be looking at your business like a business. And no one ever taught me that. And I had some notes. There we go. So I'm going to share kind of just the pathway that I was on. So for 8 years, I had consecutive growth. I had never had 1 year that didn't grow. I thought I was invincible. I thought I had it all figured out. And so in 2005, at the end of 2005, we had gone to, I think I'd paid every coach, I'd paid every trainer, bought every book and tape, and from everybody that would sell anything. And the thing that was frustrating was I felt like nobody was teaching us how to run a business. And I know Jeff Willems was in the room. John Kitchens was with me as well. And we were at an event. And the coach that I was coaching under at that time was revealing his numbers on the board. And I didn't know much about the accounting side of things. I wasn't really paying that close attention to that kind of stuff. But it wasn't very long before Jeff Willems had the calculator out and had calculated that there was no profit in our mentor's business model. It was actually losing money. And right there in front of us, they accidentally showed that. So, of course, if you know Jeff Willems very well, he didn't just sit there and not say anything. He hollered out, whoa, back that up again. Hang on a second. I just added all that up, and it looks like you're losing 5% a year. And it wasn't very long before we were lynched out of that group. But I was shocked. I was blown away. Like I'd been building this model. I was selling 530-something homes a year. And I was following this exact model, and it wasn't making any money. And I was like, what the hell? I thought this was going to work, right? So in 2006, I became frustrated with that and decided Mike I kind of helped coach him up early on in his business, and we just became really good friends. He's from Lawton, great implementer. He grew his business way faster than I did, and we decided, man, you know what? We wanted to do something more. We wanted to do something more than just selling real estate. We almost opened an office in Oklahoma City, but Becky Ivins was already working with Matt by then, and Oklahoma City target market wasn't even open. So we ended up not doing that. We ended up starting a company called Kinder Reese. And it was an interesting first go at it. We actually sold websites. How many of you bought a website, Web Agent Solutions website from us? That's awesome. How long ago was that, right? So that's what we started doing, was selling websites. We weren't even a coaching company. We added some coaching to the websites as like a value add or whatever. So we were selling websites. And I'll never forget the first hire we had at Kinder Reese. I went to lunch with Mike and this guy. I'm not going to name his name, but I'll never forget the words he said. If accounting was an Olympic sport, I'm a triple gold medalist. If anyone ever says that to you, ever, do not hire them, okay? So that to me, that sounded great. I didn't know shit about accounting. So, you're a triple gold medalist? Great, you're hired. Let's do this. So we hired this guy. Nice guy, means well, not the sharpest knife in the drawer. So in 2007, and this vision we had to really help real estate agents grow their businesses, and we started with selling websites, and we really just wanted to help people, do what we were doing. We love selling real estate. We're having fun, and we wanted to teach people how to do what we were doing. And in 2007, I want you to think about this for a minute. Who's the most important person in your business right now? The key player right now in your business. I went back to a lot. I was back and forth to Dallas all the time, which was good because I got to listen to a lot of audiobooks and stuff. But I came back, and I had someone in my office tell me that I needed to look out because possibly John Kitchens and a few other people in the company were going to be leaving. It was 2000. This was in. It was probably around June of 2007, I want to say. And I don't really like rumors, so I'm like, "Are you sure? Are you sure what you're saying? They're going to be leaving? That doesn't make any sense to me. I can't believe that. That would never happen." And I did a little bit of research, a little recon, and I actually had this. There was a program called. Some of you may have ever heard of it. It was eBlaster was the email I would get. It was SpectreSoft was the product or whatever, and it actually would every keystroke that happened on a computer, it would record it and it would send it to you every day, so you could see what was going on computers. And there was one computer that had been around the office in a few different places or whatever, and it ended up on one of my agents was using this particular, and I found a file that had been opened, and there was a business plan, and that business plan looked very similar to our business plan. As a matter of fact, it was very similar, and all the names that were in it were all people I knew, and they were all people in my company. And I found out that John, my number one agent, Reedy, who's been with me since the beginning, he was my very first buyer agent. My number two buyer agent, Richard Hickson. My number three buyer agent, Kelvin Singletary. And my listing coordinator were all going to be starting their own company. Imagine that feeling, going back and that happening, right? So I started to learn real quickly I wasn't invincible. And on top of that, this is 2007. So, and my business partner in flipping properties, Rusty Green, we had a couple of $1 million worth of property. We were doing developments, remodeling houses, flipping houses, and he was kind of the one that was really backing the whole thing. So I lost that business partner as well. And it's a leadership lesson I'm going to talk a little bit about later, how important your vision is and how important it is to how you lead your people and how important that is. It was a mistake. It took me a year to not be just pissed off about it and to take ownership of what actually happened and why they left. But after about a year, I got over it, and I begged John Kitchens for another year to come back. And I got him back. And, it would have been real easy for me to say, oh, that was, he left. How could you do that? But when you really take ownership of it and you realize, why, and you start thinking about what could I have done differently? It's the most important question you can ask in a difficult situation. What could I have done differently? Instead of saying, oh, well, that's, you should have never done that. That's not loyalty, whatever. What could I have done differently? And when you approach every situation in life with that question first, you will grow every single time. It's probably the best lesson that I've ever learned. And I got better at it. I wasn't very good at it back then. It took me a year to ask that question. But it definitely helped me to get through that. So all of a sudden, we had a pretty tough 2007. Most of you have a tough 2007, 2008? Yeah, it was an ass whooping for me. So I was laying in bed. This is January of 2008, about 6 or 7 months later. I had maxed out every business credit card I had, 3 of them at $30,000 apiece. I had leveraged all of my rental property to the tune of a couple $100,000. I had everything that I had was leveraged. I had several properties that I took in this splitting up with my business partner that we owed more on. I couldn't sell them because we were flipping and we were on tight margins, so we got stuck with them. my rentals weren't renting, and everything was just falling apart. And I was laying in bed, and with Amber, my wife. She wasn't my wife at the time. I don't know how the hell she made it through all these years with me. And I was looking, and I was adding it all up, right? I had a little Excel spreadsheet I keep it all on. And I'm looking, and I'm trying to add it all up, assessing the damage. I was kind of ignoring it, like putting my head in the sand, I think would be probably the best description of how I was looking at it. And so I added it all up, and when it added up, I had to check it like 3 times. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Seriously? Good Lord. $682,000 in debt. That's how much I'd amassed in this downturn, not firing people fast enough, chasing everything downhill. It was bad. I mean, it was bad. And I just had to laugh. I couldn't do anything else, and there was nothing I could do. I was like, well, I guess I will be a real estate agent again. I'm back in my business again full time. There ain't no way to get out of this except for to sell a bunch of damn houses. So I had tried to step away at least a little bit, and I was very much fully back into my business, I can assure you. And the guy that did the books and knew the numbers in the accounting was John Kitchens, and he was no longer there, so I didn't know how the hell I was going to figure all this out. So in May of 2008, just to put the cherry on top and make 2008 just a fabulous year, Web Agent Solutions was sued by ConsulNet, and 90% of our revenue at Kinder Reese, which amounted to about $28,000 a month, disappeared overnight. We didn't get a check again, ever. So just to make it even, and I had been funding, Mike and I both had been writing checks every month. We didn't get a check from Kinder Reese until a couple years ago. We were writing checks every month to get that company going. So this is just a freaking disaster, right? So it was August of 2009. We're still trying to climb out of this. We turned it into a coaching company. Started coaching clients. We're going to do our first event. We did our first event actually in 2008 in Lawton. There was a handful of people, like 8 or 10 people, I think, that showed up there for that. And we find out my triple gold medalist wasn't paying the payroll taxes on the employees. Has anybody ever had that happen, by the way? Okay. Man, I know you feel the pain then, because I didn't even know that was possible. I didn't know you couldn't pay them. I thought that shit was automatic. So, I mean, that's not a choice I would make, right? Like, you're not going to be like, okay, let's just not pay the payroll tax. Like, that's not going to catch up to you. I mean, you would have to do something different, you think. Well, hell no, that's not what he did. He did it, and he hid it from us, and he wasn't giving me the numbers, so I didn't know what was going on. I mean, I take full accountability for it, honestly, at this point. I have to. But I could not believe it. It was $125,000 worth of payroll tax with penalties and everything else. That was our loan. That was our SBA loan from the government to fund Kinder Reese getting started. Unbelievable, though. I mean, just unbelievable. So, and that's 2009. And at the end of 2009, this isn't that long ago. At the end of 2009, we did our first event at the Gaylord. Who was with us in 2009 at the Gaylord? That's awesome. Thank you guys for being supporters. It was good. That was a great event. We had a good time. But I remember it was like 30 degrees in December, standing outside the Gaylord. Me and Mike, I had my little rolly bag, and we just got the bill from the Gaylord. It was like $30-something thousand, and we were like, jeez, how are we going to pay that? We couldn't pay it. We didn't have the money to pay it right away. And I looked at Mike. I said, I don't know, but I got to get my ass back to my real estate business because it's falling apart. I got to, I'm still trying to get it out of debt. So, in this time frame, I had stepped out, and I would, try to, step away, and I would get back in it, and I'd be doing listings again, and then I would step away, and it was almost kind of like Jenga, or a house of cards. Like you try to, you're looking at it, is it going to fall? Is it going to fall? And every damn time it would fall. And I could not figure out how to step out of my business. It was driving me insane. The good news is, and this is part of what you'll see on the slides if we get them pulled up, is I now have a real estate business. I'm in my 3rd year of being stepped out. I stepped out in November 2010, and I haven't stepped foot back in that office again. And it's been awesome, actually. It's actually making money. Actually makes more money now than it did when I was in there, which is weird, but it does. And I'll show you how we did that. But and I'm debt-free in all my companies, every single one of them. So we climbed out of it. So but not without some serious lessons learned, let me tell you. And really, this presentation is all about those lessons learned and really, what it's taken to, what I've learned, the hard way about really growing a business and growing a company and how to look at it, from the right perspective, from an accounting perspective, and how to know your numbers and how to really build an asset. Because ultimately, we're spending our entire lives building these businesses, right? How many of you have been doing this longer than 15 years, right? This takes a lot of, your whole life is dedicated to selling real estate, right? And to do what? To do what? To give it away? How many agents have you seen sell their businesses? Does anybody know a lot of agents that have sold their business successfully? Anybody? Not a lot. There's a handful, but there's not a lot, right? So, and it's not that you might want to sell your business. You may not want to sell your business, but it's not a bad opportunity for you to maybe potentially be able to sell your business at some point. Maybe the opportunity comes and somebody offers to buy your business, and something crazy like Barbara Corcoran said, and you just come up with a magic number and someone pays it. I don't know if that shit really happens or not anymore, but I hope so. That would be awesome. So that was incredible. So as I stepped out of the business, and I'm trying to think of the slides because I don't have. And you know what? If I can probably just take. Oh, we got them? Sweet. All right. So at this point, I'm just going to have to put it this way. I was pissed off at the world that I was as dumb as I was and didn't know what I was doing running my business. So next slide, please. I feel like this. That's how I feel. So I don't give a damn what has to happen. I'm going to get that giraffe. That's what's going to happen, right? So relentless pursuit of trying to figure it out, okay? I mean relentless. So, and I have to give almost all the credit to John Kitchens. We've kind of coined the phrase as, you got to have a JK, you got to have a John Kitchens in order to do this. And he's been, to a certain degree, my container for the business. I hired him in 2004, lost him. And then it took me almost 2 full years, a full year to get him back as I was pulling and tugging and trying to get him to come back. So, because I knew he knew how to help me run that business and allow me to pursue my dreams and what I wanted to accomplish and what we wanted as a bigger vision together to be a part of our lives, which is helping other real estate agents grow their business. And ultimately, revolutionize the whole damn real estate industry is what we're on. That's the path we're on. So, all right, so next slide. So most people would have said, oh, yeah, your business is successful, right? You're selling 531 homes a year, 1.7 million in revenue, kicking ass, taking names, one of the dominant agents in your marketplace. We average, I think, 339 transactions a year since 2004 or something like that, whatever that number is. I added it up. And so, we're number 2 in the world for Coldwell Banker. I had lots of awards. Shit, I could fill this whole table up with all the awards I got, but I couldn't cash none of those in for anything. So all that stuff doesn't matter. We learned you can't take transactions to the bank, fellas. It's just not. It's not about the number of units you're selling. It's just not. And it's really hard to get away from that because I was trained to think that way. But that doesn't mean you're running your business the most profitably it can be. Next slide, please. So when I say relentless, there was no holds barred. I knew this. I've always said this, and you've probably heard me say it before, and you'll hear me say it again. I'm not the smartest kid in class, but I always sit next to him. And there's a lot of things that I didn't know, and we determined that whoever's the best in the world at whatever it is we're trying to learn, we're just going to pay them, and we're going to sit down, and we're going to learn from them, right? So that's worked really well for me, by the way. So it's not a bad strategy. So over the last 5 or 6 years, these are the mentors that we've been working with. Vern Harnish, who's read Mastering the Rockefeller Habits? Freaking amazing book. If you haven't, you need to read it. It's amazing. Frank Kern, and Vern, we've paid over $50,000. Frank Kern, he's an internet marketer, $100,000 to spend a week with him. John Warillo, we haven't paid much to him, but he's got a book called Built to Sell, which is got some great philosophies on how to build a business. Clayton Mask, we are in a mastermind with Clayt. Clayt's built Infusionsoft to, I think they're on a run rate of 60-something million this year. and 500 and something employees, and we mastermind 3 times a year with him and 8 other business owners that have way bigger businesses than we do, and we've gotten to see them grow those businesses. So it's been a tremendous mentor on the people side of things and the culture. If you know anything about Infusionsoft, whether you like the product or not, it's the most impressive company I've ever seen. If you look at what they're doing and their culture, and if you're ever around to go visit their office and do a tour, they are just an incredible, incredible company. On their way to their 10-year BHAG, which is $1 billion valuation, which they're going to hit in the next year or two, which is just incredible. Incredible to be a part of, and incredible to be able to be in the room with this guy. Dan Kennedy, who is a cantankerous old fart, but he's definitely valuable. We pay him $36,000 a year for consulting. Greg Crabtree, who's read the book Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits? How many of those same people did we introduce you to that book? All right, so the rest of you, how many of you that read that book say that it's a game changer for your business? Okay, so most of the same hands went up. I didn't want to learn the numbers. I tried to fight it. I tried to hire around it, but let me tell you something. The lessons learned, as you heard the story, you better learn. You better know your numbers. You better be the one, because it's up to you. It's your responsibility. You're accountable if your business goes under. Nobody else, and you can't depend on anybody to know the numbers. You have to understand it. And I didn't want to do it, but I finally did it. So, and I'm going to share with you some of the simple things to make it simple, because it's not hard. That's what I thought it was. I thought it was hard. It's not hard. It's not hard at all. And you just need somebody that can teach it in a way that makes it easy. And Greg Crabtree makes it easy in that book, Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits, which I'll show you on another slide. And then Jay Abraham's been our longest standing mentor. He's the most expensive person you could ever work with. He charges $15,000 a month. We pay him for consulting on really strategy and everything that we do. So these are the people that we lean on. These are the mentors that you should follow, in my opinion, if you want to become a better marketer. Frank Kern, Dan Kennedy. If you want to become a better business person, follow Clayton Maskin and Infusionsoft, what they're doing. Vern Harnish, John Warillo. These are the mentors that have helped us to get where we're at, and I think that if you given an opportunity, you want to spend as much time with these kind of people as you can. So the next slide, please. We actually got to fly with Frank Kern in his private jet to his house and spend a week on the beach in his $11 million house that he bought just so he could have private clients come stay and hang out and surf with him. Crazy. So next slide, please. All right, so Independence Day was, for me, was November 18, 2010. I never went on another listing, but the best award I ever got in my business, next slide, please, is this one. It's the Loch Ness Award, okay? So it was April, what year was that? 2013? Least likely to be cited. That's the best award I've ever got. It sits in my office. And it's my favorite award because I didn't even know some of the people that worked in my real estate company when I went to this their awards and stuff. So I came back to Lawton to do that, and that was the award they gave me. So that was pretty cool. So next slide. And when I mean least likely to be cited, I mean the only reason I went to my office ever the last 3 years now has been because I had Amazon set up and it was shipping to the office. Well, I fixed that, so now I don't go to the office at all. I don't even know if I have a key to the office now. So I am fully removed from the office now. So, Lawton has I call it the Lawton handicap. It's been a huge benefit to it's been a handicap at the same time. It's been the biggest blessing. We couldn't have figured this all out probably without it being Lawton that we had to do it in. So, low average sale price. We have a fierce competitor. It would be different if there wasn't a fierce competitor. We got a 800-pound gorilla right in our face every single day in this little bitty ass market. We're going up against a top 10 Remax team that is bad to the bone. They are wicked good. So, we had to get really good. So when you start trying to say, okay, well, I'm going to step out of my business, and you got an 800-pound gorilla you're competing against, you better dang sure have your systems and processes and your presentation and your strategy down for how you're going to do it. So, and it's, on top of all that, Lawton has continued its decline since 2007. It has not had a year that was better than the year before. It's consistently gone down. There's 10 months of inventory currently, so it's just a really shitty market to do this. So if you can do it in this really shitty market, I promise you can do it anywhere in the world. That's much I can swear to you. Okay, so next slide, please. So, we actually met with Greg Crabtree, and I learned a little bit about this, the profitability of the company. We plugged in all the numbers into the model. We get to the end, the first year of our independent company, the first entire year. So there was some startup costs, not a whole lot, but a little bit of startup costs. And we were at negative 3% pre-tax profit. That didn't work. So next slide. 2012, we did 1.2 million. Our gross margin, which I'll talk a little bit more about that, was 68%, and we had 14.4% pre-tax profit. Again, me fully removed from the business. So that was definitely promising. We were starting to see the potential for running a real business, and this being actually an asset that pays us dividends and profits instead of this potential threat that, how many of you have seen the movie Tommy Boy? You know the part where David Spade picks up he's like, come on, hit me, and David Spade picks up the 2x4 and whacks him across the face with it? Well, that's what it feels like whenever you get sucked back into your business and you're losing a ton of money. It doesn't hurt, not so much here or here, but right here is where it hurts. And that's kind of been the feeling that I've had that could be coming any minute. So when you step out of your business, and again, most of you may never do this, but if you really want to pressure test it, if you're really feeling ballsy, then just leave for a couple months and see how it goes. Because you'll realize real quickly that, damn, you ain't getting the reports you need to know everything's okay. You don't have the technology to deliver those kinds of reports that you need. You may not even be tracking the things you need to be tracking to know that everything's okay. And this fear sets in, and you're like, start to get worried about, man, is this gonna, is it the 2x4 coming? It could be coming any minute. So that was the stress test. So 2013, last year, next slide, please. We did less deals. Again, we'd consistently been doing a little bit less. I don't remember the number. I have no idea. It's 200-something deals. I don't even look at the transactions like I used to. 1.1 million. 70% gross margin, meaning I only paid out 30% in cost of sales. Cost of sales is what you're paying your agents in commissions. And a pre-tax profit, roughly 19.6%. So that's pretty exciting, because if you take the same model and you apply this anywhere else in the country, it's probably going to be a little bit larger number than 19.6%, because your average sale price goes up, but all of your other additional costs don't necessarily go up along with that. So not a real exciting, a super exciting number, but if I don't have to step foot in this office ever, and it can pay me a couple $100,000 a year, it's a pretty good deal, right? Not bad at all. So it's better than kicking the balls. All right, next slide, please. So we're thinking, holy, have you ever had one of those moments when you do something, you're like, I can't believe that just worked. Are you kidding me? That worked. Have you ever had that moment? Well, that's what it felt like. We're like, it's actually working, right? Like, it took 3 years for me to not feel like the 2x4 was coming any second, but it's actually working. And I have to give credit to John Kitchens, because he executed this flawlessly and is a phenomenal leader to be able to do it in Lawton, Oklahoma. So next slide, please. All right, so I'm going to share with you just the lessons learned. These are the things that, if you want to build a great company, these are the things that are going to matter the most. And that's where I'm at. I want to share with you the most important things. The financial model, making things scalable, and leadership. Those are the three biggest things. If I had to narrow it down, these are the three things you gotta master in your business. Next slide, please. Financial number or the financial model. Just hire Greg Crabtree. Most of you will read the book. A lot of you are like us. We hired him, flew him out. He's our accountant now. He does all the books and numbers, and we run everything through his business model, through his financial model for all companies that we own. It just makes sense. Once you see it, you'll get it. And this is the mistake most of us are making. How many of you are paying yourself a market-based wage for the job, the roles, and responsibilities you have in your company? Okay, a lot of the same hands that read the book. And those of you that are, that's awesome. And we're going to talk about that in depth here in a second. We're going to talk about core capital and understanding the cash conversion cycle and how to make investments in your business and understand what happens. I've made a lot of mistakes in this area, so I'm going to share with you how to not freak out when you're making investments to grow your business. So next slide, please. So this is actually the breakdown, and I'm going to give you at the end of this, I'm going to give you the slide deck, and I'm going to give you everything that's here, a whole bunch of stuff, a video with Greg Crabtree breaking this all down and explaining it at one of our masterminds. There's a lot of really cool stuff, so I'm going to give you all of that so you can have it and you can go through it at your leisure. But This was the essentially how we have, that we're tracking the numbers and looking at things. And, the goal, it became very obvious. We set the goal at 15% pre-tax profit. That was the target we were looking at. And there's a really interesting thing that happens when you start looking at the numbers this way is, when you look at the line that says direct labor, our listing expert, which is our listing agent, our ISA, and our listing coordinator, and our customer experience manager, and actually REO, that's all company, that's labor we wouldn't have otherwise had to invest in. So that's direct labor. And then as you move down and look at there's not a whole lot of complexity to this, right? It's kind of all bundled together. But what you're really trying to figure out is how do you drive up the labor, right? How do you get more out of the labor cost that you currently have? And the thing that you have to understand about cost of sales, if you're paying out a commission, you don't get to have the gains of efficiencies in your labor. You can't get, if you make your agents more efficient, you don't make more money on every deal they do. Okay, a lot of us make the mistake of going back to our business and focusing on trying to fix our buyer agents that all suck. We all have this problem. Don't deny it. We hate them because they're not like us and they're never going to be like us. And even though we have some of you have found some great talent. Far and away, the averages are the averages, right? You got one guy or two girls or one that are really good, and you got a whole bunch that are really terrible. And it's a mess to try to manage, right? And you try to tweak it and do everything you can to motivate them and kick them in the butt and make them do work. Call the damn leads. It's not hard, right? So, but guess what? They ain't going to do it. They're not going to do, they're going to make whatever they made last year or a little bit more or a little bit less, and that's it. And they're going to stop working. That's what they do. So, it's always been this struggle, right? So if you're going back and you're focusing on doing things trying to tweak the buy side of the business, you don't gain the efficiencies of that in the bottom line. Does that make sense? So if you go back, and I didn't really ever look at it this way. Usually by the time I get done talking, I'm half naked, so we'll start with the jacket. It's hot there. All right, I was looking at Stace's time. We were negative 3%. Me and John we're doing our annual strategic meeting, and we're like, well, what do we do, right? So we're like, well, 100% of the money, because we pay Stace, our listing agent, we pay him salary, not a commission. So it's no different than if I went on the appointment. 100% drops to the bottom line. 100% of those dollars go to the bottom line. If an agent does one more transaction, half that money goes to the bottom line, right? So we're like, well, how do we get Stace to be more efficient? So we started looking at appointments set. At one point, we had set 90-something listing appointments in 1 month. That's awesome, except we didn't need to go on 96 damn listing appointments because we didn't list near that many because we weren't qualifying anything. So we started looking at Stace's time, and if Stace drives to Temple, Oklahoma, and it takes him a half hour to prepare, and an hour to get there, and an hour to get back, and 2 hours with the client, and only 20% of the houses we've ever listed in Temple sell, and the houses in Temple are only half the price of anything else, why the hell would we even go to Temple on an appointment? How many of those hours can I get back of Stace's time? That's labor efficiency, right? I never looked at my time this way, but I'm looking at like Mike Reese is genius at this. He had his lawn company. He mapped out his lawn services to go all right-hand turns. Why? Because you don't have to wait at stoplights. So he increased the labor efficiency of his business by putting everything on right-hand turns. And there's less butts in seats, right? You don't get paid. You're not making money unless you're cutting grass. So that's looking at things and trying to be more efficient with the labor. So we started looking at things and looking at costs. We got down to everybody has the gray folder, right? Like that you write on. Is everybody using those gray folders, the real estate folders or whatever, something similar? Those are like 50 cents a piece. We calculated every penny, every single penny. We were filling those out before we go on the appointment. We stopped doing that. It saved us 50 cents times 20-something appointments that we were going on. So we started looking at every place we could be more efficient and started really building the systems around efficiencies. So now Stace goes on less appointments, but he takes more of those listings. So it's not about the number of appointments set. It's about, is this a qualified appointment? Do I need to be meeting with this person or not? And it's really, let me tell you, really, 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 really hard to get away from the thought of, trying to list everything, right? Like, we're just wired to get another listing. I was wired to get listings. That's all. I mean, more listings, more listings. So when I started seeing less listings, I'm like, oh, this is a terrible idea. This is not going to work. It's not going to work. So, but it did work. We took less listings. More of them are selling. We only take the listings we want to take. We quit taking listings and quit focusing on stuff we didn't want. And we got real specific about what our target market was, what we're working, who we want to work with, and who we're going to invest our time with. Because the more, and what we did with Stace this time was we spent more time focusing him on price reductions and getting houses correctly positioned in the marketplace where those calls weren't getting made. And guess what? More houses started selling. We became more efficient. We became more profitable. So, all right, next slide. Does that make sense? Is that an aha for anyone? All right. Okay. So, lies we've been told. You don't want to pay any taxes. You need to go to, buy a truck. How many of you have an accountant that tells you to go buy something at the end of the year? Go back, punch them in the face, and fire them. Okay? That is the worst damn advice you can get. Trust me, when you're trying to pay all this stuff off someday and get it off the books and you have all these vehicles, we got like 8 vehicles in the damn company because of this. And I was just too dumb to know any better. So I was like, you need to go buy. I mean, no, you don't need to go buy things. If that's the case, you should have been saving for taxes all along. So you need, and it's funny, but it's not funny because I was that dumb. So pay yourself a lower salary and then take the rest in shareholder distributions. A lot of you guys are doing this, and I'm telling you what it's doing. If you're not paying yourself a market-based wage for the job, the roles and responsibilities you have in the company, and I'm going to share with you what those are, I think we all are starting to get the picture of understanding that we're either the leader, the team leader of the whole company, we're operations, we're sales, and we're the listing agent, okay? And if you're in all of those boxes, it ain't going to work. You're probably killing yourself too. But you are ultimately accountable for those, all the responsibilities of all those boxes. And it's hard to say what the value of a person, if you're doing all of these things, what is it going to cost to replace you? So, but think about it. You get hit by a bus, your family wants to continue your business on, they have to go hire someone to do the job that you do in your company. How much would they have to pay? That's the question you ask. And then you pay yourself that, because when you go to stop doing a particular role and you want to pay someone to do that job, you got to pay them that amount of money, right? And what happens is our P&Ls get clouded. It doesn't show profit. You don't see any profit at the end. We have zero base it all out, right? We take it all in shareholder distributions. We're paying ourselves less of a margin. Yeah, you're going to pay about 2 to 3%. It's going to cost you a few $1,000s on every 100,000 that you'll pay an additional for doing it this way. But this is Crabtree, not me. I believe in it, I'm doing it, and I will never change it again, because now I'm looking at my business and I'm looking at profit. With me in it, with me out of it, doesn't matter. Market-based wage for what it is that I do. If I want to replace myself, I can replace myself. But I should be taking profits of the company, not taking a lower wage just to save a little bit on taxes. So it just screws up the P&Ls, and I'm not smart enough to refix it and make it work. Go back and look at it the way you should look at it. So if you are, that's fine, but most people, we're not wired that way. So, all right, next slide. So, core capital, 2 months of operating cash finance growth. So, never understood this. I've told the story about doing TV, and I spent $10,000 a month. I had like over $100,000 in the bank, and I was like, we're doing TV, let's go. Man, I was on TV every freaking hour, it seemed like. $10,000 in TV is a lot of money in TV and a lot in Oklahoma. And I was on every time you turn the TV on, our commercial was playing. I was going on more listing appointments than I could shake a stick at. It was awesome. But my cash in the bank was going down every month. I said yes to $10,000. I didn't say yes to $10,000 a month. I thought I was going to be making money, and it was going to offset it, right? I didn't think about, the next slide, please, what the cash conversion cycle is. So if you ever go to Vegas, have you ever heard anybody tell you, you want to play with the casino's money, right? So you win a little bit, put your chips back in your pocket, and play with the casino's money, right? Okay, similar premise. When you're looking at cash conversion cycles. So let's say we're going to invest. How many of you have done something that's working and then stopped doing it? Most of us have done this at some point, and it's working. Why did we stop doing it? Largely because we look at the cash in the bank and we freak out. That's what happens. That's what happened to me. I looked at the bank, I freaked out. It was down to like $30-something thousand. I'm like, what the hell? I know this is working, but I got to stop. I pulled the plug on something that was working because it took 8 months for me to break even. It took 8 months for me to close enough deals. Why? Because you list a house, it takes 3 months, 4 months to sell, and then it closes. The cash conversion cycle, when you make an investment into your business, marketing-wise, you got to be willing to, you've heard this before, you got to be willing to light a match, excuse me, you got to be willing to light a match to, in some cases, 8 months worth of that cash investment. If it's $5,000 a month, you better be ready to write a check for that. If it's coming out of your operating cash, we freak out. You're going to look at it at some point, 4 or 5 months, and go, something's broke, and you're going to freak out. Has anybody had that experience? Okay, this is a huge lesson learned. So your operating cash is 2 months of core capital, 2 months of what it costs you to run your business. And if you got a new idea you want to implement, you should finance your growth. And I say that carefully as someone who has financed everything to the hilt at some point and nearly lost everything. But this is what Greg Crabtree told me on the phone one day, and I was like, got it. You either have to have that cash set aside or you need to finance the growth. For us, we're depending on your level of willingness to take risk, you can either finance the growth or you could have the cash set aside and be willing to light a match to it. Most of us don't even worry about it. We just take the risk out of the operating cash and just try to make it work. That's how we usually do it. So don't do that. It's absolutely detrimental. You can do more if you want, but you need absolutely 60 days worth of core capital in your account. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. You need 60 days in the bank, and don't finance your new marketing and your new ideas out of your operating capital, okay? Does that make sense? It's not that complex. It really isn't. It's pretty simple. So if you do that, you won't freak out. So, all right, next slide. So this is how you determine your salary cap. I'll give you all this stuff. This little drill is pretty simple. You kind of know what your revenues are in your business right now. You know you know what your non-salaried costs are, which is your cost of sales. Let's go to the next slide. I think I actually break it down. Okay, I didn't break it down. Let's go back. Sorry. All right, so if you look at the bottom one, so the revenue, our goal revenue was 1.1 million. The non-salary costs were 283,000, and then cost of sales at 70% cost of sales goal was 287,000. That was what we expected it to be. Since we started tracking it, we knew about where it was probably going to be. So we knew what our total expenses were, and we set a goal of 20% pre-tax profit. We said we want to make $200,000 or whatever. So if you predetermine all of those, it'll tell you how much you can spend in salary. That's your salary cap. Just like the NFL has a salary cap, your business has a salary cap. Then what you do is you take that number and you look at how much you're paying everybody, and you see if you can make it work. And you're either paying people too much or you're not paying people, you know what I'm saying? You either got room in your salary cap to grow or you don't. Does that make sense? So this is how you reverse engineer the goal of being profitable in your business. So that was how we did that. It's called this is Greg Crabtree. I'm not a genius, didn't figure this out. Greg Crabtree. Next slide, please. So labor efficiency, I talked a little bit about this. Dollar productive activities, quality listing appointments. That was the focus there. You know, it's sometimes the greatest advancements come not from the most intelligent, but from the laziest, is what it says. I don't know if y'all can see that whole thing, right? So it's like, man, there's got to be a better way. We say it all the time. Damn, there's got to be an easier way to do this. So we're always looking for, how do we make it easier? How do we automate it? How do we make it less steps in the process? How do we make it easier? How do we make it easier? Always looking for ways to make things more efficient. Next slide, please. All right, so scalability. This is big, and this was the hardest thing to figure out. So for 18 months, I focused on the damn listing presentation, trying to figure out how am I going to beat these two gorillas in my marketplace that are kicking my ass sometimes when I go up against them. And I knew how to beat them, and I had a way to beat them, and I knew that we could beat them every time, but I had to make that scalable for somebody else to do it. And I couldn't pay it. I didn't have money. I didn't have enough money to pay somebody $150,000 a year to be my listing agent. So, you know, I couldn't give them 30%, 40%, 50% commission. That wasn't going to work. Hell no, I'd be broke. I never got out of my business. I'd still be in law, and you wouldn't even be seeing me here. So there was no way for me to get out of it, and I wanted out really, really bad. So 18 months, we focused on the listing presentation and making it scalable. And what we learned was this. When it comes down to your listing presentation, scalable means it ain't about you anymore. It can't be about you. It has to be about the process, the system. We have a proven, repeatable system backed by market research to sell your home for up to 18% more than the methods of traditional real estate agents. Would you like me to show you how we do that? Okay. So it's the system. It's the system. It's the system. I can't say it enough. It's got to be about the system. If it's about you and how wonderful you are and how many awards we've won, like it used to be for me, that's what I used to do. I go in and brag about all the awards I got. And I ain't making any money, but look at all these awards I got. I can help you sell your house. So, but I was really good at it. So I was trying to figure out how do we make this work. Wow. All right, so how are we on time? Probably getting close. All right, so move on to the next one. All right, so company generated versus agent generated. First thing you have to do in your business, you have to know for sure where your business is coming from before you start making a bunch of changes and doing things different. So company generated business is business you control. And if you do you have to track everything. I'm talking every incoming call, after hours phones, what happens on Saturdays and Sundays. You got to track it all because my agents, I don't know about y'all's, but I'm not going to say they weren't honest, but they weren't honest. And they didn't know where they got that listing call from. They didn't remember where it came from. Source 7-Eleven in line at 7-Eleven. Bullshit. That call came in after hours, and we started tracking that stuff. So we were getting listing calls after hours, and my agents were trying to take them and pretend like they were, they don't know where they got it from and all this. So that's company-generated business, and that's like stealing. And I'm going to punch you in the face and fire your ass if you do it. And I record every phone call now, so I'm going to know if you do it. They quit doing that. So it works. So you got to do that. You got to know. You just have to know. Is it company-generated or agent-generated? I didn't know how much it was, but 82% of our business was company-generated, and only 18% was coming from the activities that they were doing outside of that. So that was good for me to know. And I knew with each agent, because what happens when you leave your business is every time you come to town, they all want one-on-one meetings with you to talk about their split. Don't you love those meetings? Isn't that your favorite meeting? I want to meet with you to talk about my split. I'll talk about my split. I'm going to split your head open if you ask me to give you a higher split again. So it drove me crazy, so I had to know, how much of the business did you do and how much did I give you? And then once I knew that those conversations stopped happening. I gave you 90% of the business, you did 10. What do you want to talk about? You want to talk about where you're going to go work next? Because I'm okay with that. Because you ain't doing shit for me. Didn't look like, right? So anyway, next slide, please. Yeah, I'm a little bitter, It happens. It's 17 years doing this. All right, next slide. We talked about that. It's about the process. It's got to be a system. Organizational structure. We're going to wrap this up real quick. I'm going to give you all this stuff. I'll help you out. If you want to call me, I'm happy. I love working with people like you guys, right? So it's my passion. Most fun thing in the world to do, right? Because you guys get it, and nobody else in the world gets it. And I'm telling you, it's a rarity to find this many people who get it and are driven to do the same things. We're trying to accomplish the same thing. I'm just crazy enough to have just started a new brokerage here in Frisco. So Mike and I opened Kinder Reese, our first brokerage, together here in Frisco to start it all over again for some dumbass reason. We're crazy enough to do that. And so I'm in this with you guys. I'm not trying to get away from it. I'm trying to make real estate better for us. So organizational structure, next slide, please. So this is the breakdown. I don't have time to get into all of this, and I wish I had time to get into the functions because it's the most important thing. But if you just follow this, you'll figure this out. So this is the business model for a 300 unit business. There's business assumptions there. You change those business assumptions, it changes the model a little bit. And there's a couple things there that we could tweak and who reports to who kind of things. But that's basically a $500,000 net profit business model. So that's what we're building. And I have no intention on going on any appointments, I can assure you. So that's the business model. And we actually, just to pressure test the Lawton office a little bit more, we brought John Kitchens and moved him down here to run this brokerage. And so we're on a third round of leadership in Lawton, Oklahoma, which if you really want to pressure test your leadership and your business, take a second leader out and see what happens, because it's definitely a new experience. All right, so next slide, please. So, and go back one just for 1 second. Okay, so these are three really important things. Operations, the buyer sells, and then the seller sells. And there should be a seller ISA under the seller sales manager. I don't know if I got the right one back and put it in the slide wrong or something. But anyway, so there should be a seller ISA under the sales manager. But you're either managing the buyer. Somebody's role and responsibility is number of buyer leads converted, an appointment, and under contract. Whoever owns that, who is accountable for that, should be a buyer sales manager. Somebody should be accountable to that. I'm not saying it needs to be you or whatever, but somebody needs to be. And then on the listing side, somebody is accountable to whether you're taking the number of listings or the number that's going under contract. And then operations. Somebody's got to manage the efficiency of the office. And go to the next slide. I'll talk about how to figure this out. So we created this actually. I called Vern Harnish, and we were having challenges with trying to figure out the people side of the equation. And he has this people chart. If you go to the gazelles.com, the people chart breaks it down, and it's not specialized for the functions of real estate. So these are the functions. It's actually a longer page than that. And I want you to go through this. When you download it from the website, I'm going to give you a URL. I want you to go through this, and I want you to think about it this way. And it says it on here, how to do it, go through it, is who's accountable for this function in your business? Who is ultimately accountable? If the shit hits the fan, who is ultimately accountable? And a lot of times what you find when you go through this is you really didn't give someone the roles and responsibilities and make them accountable. It ends up coming back on you. And that's what will happen. So who is ultimately accountable right now in your business for price reductions and making sure your houses go under contract? Who is it? Anybody? Ultimately, you're accountable, right? Probably, right? To a certain degree, most of us are still like, damn, nobody really owns that in my office. Nobody owns it. And nobody owns it with a metric, and they're reporting on it, and I know that it's being owned. Does that make sense? And then we're like, dang, we need to put a system or processor in place around that. Or what we did was we just, spent a whole week, trying to get price reductions at one time, sometimes. So most of you have systems in place for it, but think about, when you go through it, think about that function and who owns it. If everybody looks at you in your office and say, well, that's not my job, and nobody clearly owns it, then you own it, and your name's in that box. And you know what the number one goal of the head of the company is? Vern Harnish told me this. I answered the question wrong. Damn right. Get your name out of boxes. That's your responsibility as the head of your company. Get your name out of these boxes. You're going to be in a lot of boxes. You're going to be not happy about this process. But you're going to see, look, I'm doing all this. Damn, I'm accountable to damn near everything in the company. I'm not really truly letting go of anything. So when you go through this process, then you look at what's the leading indicator, what's the lagging indicator, what's the driving force of the revenue that you're trying to get, or the actual result, and what's you guys have all heard it before, but leading indicator, lagging indicator. You want to know what those two metrics are and attach it to that position, and you want to hand that to someone, and that's someone's new role and responsibility, and it's not yours. And this will help you to understand who you need to hire, and it will help you to understand what things you need to get off of your plate so you can be more productive. Make sense? It's a bad to the bone tool. You should absolutely go through that, and it's actually kind of fun actually. But all right, next slide. I think we're almost done here. So, all right. So accountability. That's simple. Let's go to the next one. I'm not going to get into that. We know accountability is key. Leadership. This is the last couple slides here. So, rule of 7. Never knew this. Guess what? You can't lead more than 7 people. Does anybody know this? Has anybody ever seen this? I didn't know this. You can't lead more than 7 people. I learned it in Infusionsoft. When you have 500 or 600 employees, they got to kind of figure that shit out, I guess. So I never knew it. But what happens is, if you're going to lead people, the thing that's going to make your organization the strongest is your ability to lead people and have clear understanding of who is reporting to who and who is accountable to who. And it comes down to something real simple. How many of you do quarterly reviews religiously in your business? I sucked at it, right? We always skip it. It's like, maybe next year. You know what I'm saying? Like that doesn't seem productive to us. You know what I'm saying? Like they're fine. They're doing good. If they weren't, I'd fire them probably. So let's just keep going. That's what I did for 15, 14, 13 years. Most amazing thing in the world happened when we started doing quarterly reviews. And I have all the documents and everything for how we do this. It's very well structured, and we rank on 2 things: core values and performance. That's it. You're either red, yellow, green, performance, and core values. Most important is core values. You know what we do? We have them rank themselves on our core values. And then we have them come up with an action plan for what they think they need to do to get better. And then we meet with them in one-on-ones every single week for 30 minutes. The one-on-ones are really the secret sauce to building a great organization. Because in those one-on-ones, they're going to cry. They're going to tell you things about their family that they've never told people. You're going to learn more about these people than you ever imagined. And you're going to learn how to lead them. You're going to learn how to make them better people. And that's for me, it's the most fun thing that you can do. It's the most rewarding thing you can do in your business. You get to develop people in your company. It's leaders creating leaders, creating leaders. It's the most important thing you could ever learn and master in your business. And I wasn't doing it. I was pretending. But these one-on-ones, you're talking about their personal. In the quarterly, they're setting their personal goals. What do they want to accomplish? You ever had that feeling like somebody's going to leave? I can't believe that person left. If you had one-on-ones, you would have known, right? Right? You didn't know they were leaving? You didn't know this was their goal, that you didn't know they weren't happy? Every week. That's why you can only manage 7 people. Because you got to meet with them every week for 30 minutes. You have more than 7 people, guess what? You can't lead them. So you have to divide the roles and responsibilities, and you have to get clear on who it is that you're leading in your company. And you need to have that one-on-one meeting. You need to know what their personal goals are. Don't just you're not hitting your goals. You didn't make your calls today. That's not it. That's not enough. The daily rhythm's great. It's phenomenal. But it doesn't get down to the one-on-one where you really truly help them to accomplish their personal goals, and you hold them accountable to the things they said they want to do in their life. Unbelievable, okay? So last thing, I think we're down to our last couple of slides. All right, so leaders creating leaders. First who, then what? There's a video online of Jim Collins, and I love Jim Collins. He's freaking awesome. And he goes into it, and he says, it's first who, then what? First who, then what? First who, then what? And I say it all the time, and sometimes it doesn't have that meaning. Jim Collins does it way better than me. But it's amazing. If you watch it and you think about what he's trying to tell you, is it's about the people. It's always about the people. You find the right people, then you decide what you're going to accomplish. You get the right people on the bus, then you go attack the vision of what you want to do. And most of us, and I haven't had the opportunity to really, focus on, and learn more about the hiring process Mr. Pike shared. But I know it's the most important thing we can do in our business, and get the right people on the bus and get the wrong people off the bus. And if you're leading people that are the right core value fit with your company and have the right and want to accomplish, and they have clear roles and responsibilities that they know what they're supposed to do and what the end result looks like. If you ask every one of your employees, can you clearly tell me what your job roles and responsibilities are and what the metrics are behind whether you're doing a good job or not? And if they don't know, most of them will say they don't know. It sucks, but that's what's going to happen. And when it's the number one thing that's going to determine whether they're happy in their job. They don't even know if they're doing a good job or not right now. Our employees don't even know if they're doing a good job because we don't know. We hadn't given them that clarity to know this is how you know if you're doing a good job, right? So it's really important. All right, so, and the last thing, lead with your vision. If you're the visionary in your company, the only thing that's going to get you to build this the way it needs to be built is going to be having a clear vision on where you want to be 10 years, 20 years from now, and really getting clear on that. I used to, I'll be doing this, whatever, selling real estate, I don't know. But when you get real clear, 10 years is not that long, man, it moves fast. Where do you want to be 10 years from now? What are you trying to build? And you get real clear on what that perfect life you're trying to build and why you have this business and why you're so committed to it and what you're trying to accomplish and what your mission is and what really makes your heart sing. When you get clear on that, people will get on board and they will crash through walls to accomplish that vision with you and be a part of something great. Okay? So you got to get clear on that. And when I say, the name of this session was Build a Sellable Business. It's not about selling your business, but it's about really creating a business that is the life that you want, the life we all desire, the freedom that we all want, right? We don't do this because we just like to work. I mean, I'm pretty sure most of us would be fine, having enough money to do whatever we want, whenever we want, with whoever we want, right? So that's the goal, and you got to get clear on where you're trying to be, and you got to get clear on it's where I want to be in the next 10 years. What am I doing the next 90 days to get there? So next slide, please. So in AEA, we get real clear on what it is we're trying to accomplish. We want to revolutionize the real estate industry. And there's nobody teaching this shit, by the way, in case you guys want to look for somebody. There ain't nobody in our industry doing this. So that's our passion. We are dedicated to fixing the real estate industry, and we're going to make a big-ass wave. We're going to put a big-ass ding in the universe. All right.